Hello, and welcome to the Law of One study channel. Today we'll be sharing conscious channeling from LL Research, messages from the Confederation in service to our one infinite creator. I am Robert, your humble host and narrator. Today we'll be speaking of mind games. Thoughts of purpose aside for the moment, there are still many things about the wanderer's typical mental situation that are troublesome because we have a different take on things than many within consensus reality. Here are some thoughts from our fellow wanderers. My mind tends to work in reverse motion most of the time, and I tend to walk the more difficult path. I have always had a different way of thinking, finding humor in many different situations, and in many cases having to explain what I find funny. I have always felt different from most people around me, including my family. Don't feel better than anyone, just different. My interest always put me out on the rim. My beliefs certainly so, and my lifestyle as well. This is so discouraging to live with, and I talk with people every day who are experiencing these feelings and having a hard time. Just today, Pharaoh wrote with a concern that was based on feelings of urgency about subjects that most people think are too far out. He tries so hard to connect, and yet he is blocked because his mind does work differently, and people just can't relate. Like most wanderers, he possesses the highest ideals and hopes, but how discouraging to receive rejection again and again. These wanderers also express such feelings. The vibration here seems so negative to me that I often pull back from the world, hide out, and heal. My actions in the world often seem and feel ineffectual and foolish. Doing and learning things are painful. As a child, I always believed that love was the greatest power there was. It was a traumatic experience for me growing up. There was so much hate in this world. I found very often that I did not understand what was expected of me in various situations. And I spent a lot of time researching culture, etiquette, and psychology. Like so many other wanderers, it took me a long time to realize that you cannot trust anyone. That is so sad. And yet I cannot say that it is untrue, for I have felt the brutality of Earth's vibrations all my life too. I think wanderers see the game playing in human relations. From a rather young age, I somehow knew that I am not from around here. I just could not bring myself to identify with all sorts of games that people keep up. Yet I had no working ability to relate to most people either, because many things felt like living in a different dream, just watching their moves from behind a see-through screen. I would certainly agree that all of the infinite creation can easily be characterized as a dream or a game, a divine process of play and dance that uncovers self to self. This thought may not be much help to the wanderer staggering under rejection from the world. Though, here's another slant on mind games. It is so very, very easy to say, I don't care. The truth is, other people don't understand. They can't and they don't need to. If they did, they would. You need to care when you are able to perceive things that are beyond the normal range of human perception. You feel more keenly. It's okay. If you don't care, you don't feel. If you don't feel, you'll never learn the difference between what is you and your own and what is they and their own. You must know yourself. Most people don't. This is not possible if you do not care. Good advice for wanderers: to care, to be vulnerable, to wear the heart on the sleeve, even knowing that it will be disrespected and misunderstood. It is not easy to go on caring. Sometimes the discouragement seems total. As I suggested to Pharaoh today, my best advice is to focus on meeting the moment with an open heart, then looking for the love in that moment, then following that love. This may mean not sharing what is our personal truth, for when offered unasked, if our personal belief system is enough skewed from consensus reality, as many a wanderer's is, the offering is often met with disinterest or even outright hostility. It may mean focusing on how we can make that other person feel more comfortable and special, and allowing that person to relate to us rather than our belief system. It is not dishonest to refrain from sharing what has not been asked. Be one who looks to plant a seed of thought, at most, and then move on, rather than offering the heart of self's beliefs when unprompted. Refuse to stay discouraged. It may seem that we are alone and the situation is hopeless, but actually, there are a lot of people with a tremendous amount in common with us, and we will connect as time passes and destiny unfolds. Here are some encouraging words. I really feel I am on the right track, for although I get weary and suffer an awful lot, and speak raunciously about phenomena, and I swear a lot, etc., I am still mega tenacious about holding the vibration of love. The feeling within me grew that I was headed in a direction that was inner in nature and involved a lot of other people who wanted to make significant changes in this world, and that what we would do concerned love and loving each other, creating a kind of family of the heart. It felt very solid as an inner direction, and it also gave me a lot of comfort. I find this a marvelous way to look at our differences from the supposed norm. We are people doing inner work. The outer, driven world will often not understand that. But we are here to help, and we are able to be of help. And we have grand companions on the way. Included in mental problems for wanderers is a thirst for justice. The bone deep outrage at unfairness and cruelty in people and societies is common among awakened souls. Those of QO comment, "The third density is not a density in which wisdom plays a great part. It is the folly of men to believe that there is wisdom in third density, and thus one may see the ideal of justice, an ethical, philosophical ideal which does not take into account either the nature of the illusion, the purpose of the illusion, or those entities which have come to self-consciousness within third density illusion. In any real sense, there is little observable justice, for the plan which each has created before the lifetime often deliberately includes difficult, unfair, and painful circumstance. And the more spiritually ambitious an entity is, the more difficult the lessons that that entity came to manifest will be. Here are some wanderers who share their distress concerning justice. When in school as a young child, a teacher explained the meaning of prejudice. I was most upset, thinking how illogical and unjust a concept. I even started to compose a book in my mind about it. Something to the effect that no matter what the color of our skin, be it black or white or red or golden or green, we were all of flesh and bone and blood. We all had emotions, feelings capable of being hurt. I get incensed when I see the injustice in the world and people's apathy towards such acts. I have a vision of what we as a species are capable of and of the paradise that could be. Is it not easy to see that these mental stresses can sometimes storm out of hand and that wanderers can end up in mental trouble, mentally ill, or suicidal? As my friend says, as a wanderer, there is a space in your head where you know you are right, and it isn't so much that you're right. Often, you don't even know why you think others are wrong. It doesn't matter what anyone else says, and no one needs to hear your opinion. It's just the way it is. To doubt that space is to flirt with depression and insanity. Now, I'll tell you, I had several years of psychiatric therapy during and after the time of Don's illness and death back in 1984. At the time, we were both going through what I could roughly call nervous breakdowns or depressions. The difference between us was our level of trust in others and our willingness to listen to the people trying to help us. I survived. Don descended into madness and committed suicide. I know he felt this was the right thing for him to do. In my heartfelt opinion, suicide is never a good idea. While I can well understand the despair and sense of unbearable pressure that make people turn to ending it all, suicide does not end anything except the person's life and the opportunities for learning within this incarnation. In Illusions, Richard said, more or less, that if we are alive, we have a mission to complete, and it is not time to leave. And I agree. When it's time for us to move on, the Creator will take us on to larger life. I am aware of the rationalizations for suicide for people who wish to die with dignity, and in a sense, it is not my business what people besides myself do. I would not judge a person harshly for choosing to end her life. I would feel, however, that she had made an unwise decision. I know what it is like to survive the suicide of a loved one. In my case, there ensued 6 tremendously painful years during which I actively wanted to die myself for the omissions and commissions of things said and left unsaid that contributed to Dawn's despair. By 1990, I had begun to relate in my self-judgment, and in 1992, this process of death within came to a natural end as I was taken to the hospital with internal bleeding and lost half my descending colon to the surgeon's knife. Once this massive difficulty was set right, I chose to enter rehabilitation therapy and worked to get out of the wheelchair and back to vertical life. Broadly speaking, my agenda from 1984 until 1992 was surviving my own desperately unhappy walk in the desert of self-judgment. Do not ever think we are only hurting ourselves if we commit suicide. Everyone who survives a loved one's suicide, even friends who were only acquaintances, will feel perfectly ghastly. To this day, I still am haunted by visions of Don's face when he was so mentally ill. His suffering was Christ-like and terrible. However, in the fullness of time, I have been healed, and now I also see him as a wonderful part of my guidance. But this does not remove the haunting images or my sorrows. Here are several other wanderers' comments on their mental health. I sometimes think I have lost it and become protective of myself so as not to draw too much attention. There are people who would attempt to label me a nut because they don't understand and probably couldn't understand from within the ideals they claim as their truth. So I'm careful. I was in the throes of the mental health system. I'm a paranoid, chronic schizophrenic, manic depressive, schizoaffective, hypersexual, eccentric. I've been locked up twice and can say I meet more awakened people within the institutions than outside of it. When I was in the mental hospital in 1990, I experienced great love and fellow feeling from the fellow patients. While almost none of the professional healers even believed what I was saying, I was very grateful for the sanity of the other patients. Here is a wanderer who fared better with the mental health system. When I was 24, I was admitted to the psychiatric ward for 3 weeks. I wanted to stay longer. A kind of existential rock bottom. March, even in the south of Norway, is still barren. Nothing sprouts as yet. Only last year's dead leaves have appeared from under the vanishing snow. As I walked across the yard from one building to another, my attention is caught by a movement. A single, small dry leaf is wheeling past me. The movement of that leaf even before I could think, and I'm quick to think, that leaf is a dead thing moving by a slight wind, had expanded into a dance of life. It was moving, and that moving expanded, reverberated deep into my being, telling me there is life, and life is alive, and I am alive. Yes, even after thinking that thought of dead thing in the wind, I could keep that gem within to help me on. We will continue in our next episode. We shall finish this process of looking at how we are different from the norm. As we look at the emotional problems, the pitfalls of the wanderer's path, I hope as we find people like ourselves, we will begin to realize on a deep, core level that we are truly not alone on this earth, but that we are one of a great number of spirits who have come to this earth and this incarnation for reasons similar to our own, and that these are wonderful companions that we will connect with as our own stories unfold. This is Robert, and it has been a pleasure sharing this message from the Confederation in service to our infinite Creator. From A Wanderer's Handbook by Carla, thank you Carla, of LL Research. Oh yeah, and just a reminder to you, my brothers and sisters, I love you.